Welcome, everyone. It's the Thursday before Purim. So, in a week, this time we'll be celebrating Purim. Purim really begins Wednesday night, but it's celebrated Wednesday night all the way through Thursday evening. The mitzvahs of Purim have four primary mitzvahs, and they are to listen to the reading of the Megillah twice, once at night and once during the day. That's mitzvah number one. Mitzvah number two is to give gifts of food to your friends. The minimum requirement is at least 2 food items that are edible. Shalach Monas, very good. 2 gifts of food, but they have to be edible food. So, not a raw potato that you have to cook in order to eat it. It should be the person that receives it who would benefit from it right away. Hello, Mayor. The third mitzvah, and by the way, that mitzvah is 2 items to one person. You can give to as many as you want, but at least to one person. And third mitzvah is to give money to the poor, at least to 2 poor people. Again, you can give more. Even someone who considers themselves poor and they're counting on receiving money on Purim, they still themselves have to give to another poor person. That's the mitzvah of Purim. And fourthly, it's the Su'udas Purim. It's the mitzvah to have a Su'udah, to have a feast on Purim. A meal, a holiday celebration on Purim. These are the 4 main mitzvahs of Purim. And we start Wednesday night. The first mitzvah is Megillah, should be at night and by day. All the other 3 are during the day. What are we celebrating on Purim? They tell the joke of an elderly individual who would go to the park every day with his caretaker. And there was an elderly woman also who came with her caretaker. They would sit on the bench and talk. And this went on for quite some time. Every afternoon they would meet and talk until they decided, why do we have to every time, meet here and then we go our separate ways? Let's move in together. It makes perfect sense. We can spend much more time together. So he asks her one day, takes the courage and he says, do you want to marry me? She says, yes. He comes home, he's all excited. The next morning he wakes up, he says, did she say yes or did she say no? So he decides to call her. It's uncomfortable, but what don't you do for love? So he calls her and says, forgive me for asking, but I asked you to marry me. Did you say yes or no? I forget. She said, I said yes, and thank you so much for calling. I know I told somebody yes yesterday. I couldn't remember to who. Maybe shikha, maybe other issues. The gift of forgetting is really a gift. I know we get frustrated when we forget things and we say. I don't want so much of that gift. Okay, amen. We get frustrated when we forget something. It could be embarrassing if you forget somebody's name. It's not a fun situation when you don't remember something. However, at the same time, it is beneficial to forget certain things. You had an interaction with somebody, maybe you were offended, maybe you didn't like the way they behaved towards you. Should you remember this front and center for the rest of your life? Should we sometimes forget? Should we forgive? And they are 2 different things, but should we forget and forgive and move on? And sometimes it's a gift, it's a good thing to do. However, in Torah we find an interesting mitzvah which says, don't forget what Amalek did for you. Amalek was an enemy of the Jewish people who started a war with us, and Torah commands us, don't forget what they did to you. Haman, we're going to celebrate Purim next week. Haman was such a person. He was from Amalek. And the week before Purim, the Shabbos before Purim, it's called Shabbos Zachor. Zachor means remember. What are we remembering? 10 Commandments? Are we remembering going out of Egypt? Are we remembering? We're remembering what this nation did to us, Amalek. Which is a strange thing. Why is Judaism telling us, remember, it's thousands of years, remember what they did? And every year we get up in Shul and we take out the Torah and we read the portion which talks about what Amalek did. We remember Amalek. Why is it so important to remember? Don't we always focus and say, maybe forget, maybe it's time to move on? Let's think about it from a psychological standpoint. It's sometimes not good to keep the anger within you. Okay, I want to say it's maybe never good to keep the anger within you. Sometimes it's time to move on. It's been 3,000 plus years. Maybe we could forget. Now, why is it a mitzvah? That's just, it's not a good emotion to have this anger towards Amalek. And every year, in case it calms down, we're going to bring it up again and bring it up again. Not only that, but we do it every day. There are 6 remembrances that we say every day after davening. The Sephardim say 10 remembrances, but Ashkenazic Jews say 6. And one of them is remember what Amalek did. It's right there with Shabbos and with going out of Egypt. Remember what Amalek did to you. It's constant. It doesn't sound like a good idea, just from a human standpoint, not to forget. Even in Jewish law, we focus on the ability to forget. We say, before we go to sleep every night, we say the Shema. The Shema is a central Jewish prayer that we say in the morning and we say in the evening. And before we go to sleep, we say it. It's called Krishma Alamita, the Krishma, which is on the bed. It means by bedtime. Before we start the Shema, there's a beautiful prayer. It's a paragraph. And it says, Master of the world, Hareini Moichal, I hereby forgive all those that have angered me, hurt me, offended me. Not just in the micro, but also in the macro. And on a global level, someone that hurt me, I'm forgiving them. I'm going to sleep. I don't want to harbor this anger, this resentment within me. I want to end the day with everything that came with it and start tomorrow fresh. So it's not just a good idea to forgive. It's not just a good idea to forget and move on. But even Torah prescribes and says, before you go to sleep, say this prayer, declare it. Now with that, in Hasidic thought, goes a beautiful custom of thinking through our day. Not just people that angered us, but how did I behave? What was it like? Are there areas that I could improve and what they can't be improved? Are there people that maybe they're trying to forgive me, maybe I have to make amends? And we make some decisions for the next day. Tomorrow I'll try to be a little better in this area or in that area. You do a little recap of the day to yourself and we go to sleep. But the central theme of this first prayer is to forgive, yes.
And do we forgive ourselves?
That's a great point. I think we have to forgive ourselves. We don't say it verbally in the prayer. We don't say forgiving myself. However, the attitude of taking an account of the day and planning for tomorrow, I think, is forgiveness. I'm giving myself another chance. I'm recognizing that I could do better. I am moving on. Instead of just saying, one day I'll deal with this. So we say forgive, but there's this one enemy that we don't forgive. And we don't forget. And we keep on reminding ourselves and our families and our communities, don't forget. Not only that, but in the Rambam it says that it's a commandment to remember what they did for us. And I have a hard time saying this, but this is what the Rambam says, and to hate them. What's this idea? It's not a Jewish trait. Where's hate coming from? You have a problem, work it out. You have an issue, they should be punished. The idea of hatred is a very strong term. And it's unique to Amalek, and the question is why? There's a question. If Purim is on a Sunday, if Purim is on a Friday, okay? When do you read the Parsha of Amalek? We always read it the Shabbos before Purim, close to next to Purim. The Talmud says, what if Purim was on a Friday? Do you read it the week before, or do you read it the day after? Because Haman was from Amalek. Should we do it right next to each other, or should we go back?
Yeah.
You think the day after?
No.
Shabbos. You think the week before? Okay, so the Talmud says like this, the week before. The reason, and it explains, because why are we reading Amalek? Because we want that when we come to the holiday of Purim, we should have this intense feeling about who they are. And when we hear about Haman in the shul, when Haman's name is read in the Megillah, we should bang with a feeling of I don't like this nation. I don't like what they did to us. It's such a strange concept. You don't find this anywhere else in Judaism, that you should not forgive somebody or hate somebody. It doesn't. It's not something which you're supposed to do or allowed to do, and it's not a good idea. Think about how many enemies our nation had throughout the years. We don't say hate them. You don't say don't forgive them. You don't say don't forget about them. Pharaoh. When we say Pharaoh's name in the Haggadah, we don't bang our groggers and whatever else and make noise. Oh, he's the bad man. We don't do that. We don't get up every day in the shul and say, never forget what Parai did to you. We move on. There's actually certain laws about appreciating Egypt because we stayed there for a while. Even though we were slaves, the fact that we had a place to stay, it's a tremendous value of Yiddishkeit, which is hakaras hatoiv, recognizing the good, appreciating when someone does something good for you, even though they didn't mean it. They actually were not nice to us, but we stayed there. So we're not going to pay them for their stay, but we do recognize it and we appreciate it and it means something. But what's more important here is we don't say, remember them and never forget, hate them. We don't think about it. Amalek didn't do so much to the Jewish people. It was a couple hours, maybe a couple days that they fought with us. And they didn't kill many Jews. Not that one is not too many. Parai killed a lot more. Nebuchadnezzar killed much more. The Romans, the Greeks, millions of Jews. After the second temple was destroyed, millions. And throughout history, if you try to compare the enemies of who's worse, he's not all that bad as far as damage that he caused for the Jewish people. And yet, Amalek. And comparatively speaking, and it's not, the whole thing is very strange from a Jewish value perspective, and from a just historic perspective. Why is he hated so much? In addition, what am I supposed to do with this hatred? You're not going to war with them. First of all, it says that Sancheriv was a king who came and he mixed up all the nations. He blended everyone. He moved this group to here and half a nation to there, and he made a big mix of all the nations of the world. So we don't know today the source of who Amalek really is. People give all types of suggestions of who Amalek might be. Anytime someone gets up against the Jews, it's Amalek. We don't know who they are. Okay, we can't trace them back because there was a mixing and a blending of all the nations. You can't say with certainty, this is Amalek, and Torah says wipe them out, this is them. You don't know that. Not only that, but even if we would know who Amalek was, we don't have the rights today to do anything to them. We're not living in a time when the Jewish king has a rule over any area. We don't have the right. It would be murder, even according to Jewish law, if you went and did something to Amalek. Because even if you knew who they were, we don't know who they are now. So what's this whole idea? It's just to instigate hate among us to some unknown nation, which is rare that Torah, it's not rare, it's the only time Torah should actually do that. What's really going on here? Not only that, but the fact that Torah puts it right up, you have to remember, what are the other 6 remembrances? The Torah, being in the desert, going out of Egypt, Shabbos, central concepts. It's like one thing. Imagine somebody had an incident when they were a child. God forbid, somebody hurt them. That's not a child. You were in college and somebody was mean to you. It really bothered you. So what, you're going to remember it for the rest of your life every single day? What? Is it a good idea?
Actually, the childhood, something happens, it's really still life. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you that it stays all life, the whole life. The question is, do we encourage people to harbor it?
You're just not saying, but
And always feel.
you have same feeling for these kids, like he was not okay. It's interesting.
Right.
It's just not all.
More than that, the only parsha in Torah, which is a biblical commandment to listen to, is this parsha. We read the Torah every week, every holiday. It's a rabbinic commandment. It's interesting. Moshe Rabbeinu was the one that enacted we should read the Torah on Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos. Why do we do that? We do it 3 times a week. Moshe didn't want, in the shul, they don't read the Torah every day. They read it Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos from the scroll. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want that the Jewish people should go 3 days straight. Hello and welcome. They should go 3 days straight without hearing Torah. So he said, you may get busy, this and that. We're going to make it a rule that Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos, Torah is read in the shul. What's your name?
Kenan.
Say it again.
Kenan.
Kenan, welcome. I'm Levi. So this is the question of why is there such an emphasis on Amalek? There's a question that's asked, why is it once a year? Maybe once every 2 years, maybe every half a year. So our sages tell us an interesting idea that forgetfulness works in 12-month cycles. It's something about 12 months, that's a forgetful time. It's a full cycle, it's a full year. It's not a month later, 2 months later. A year is a time that if something occurred, about a year later you forget about it, and it's gone. There's something about this 12 months idea, and that's why once a year we read it. Okay, so our question is, why do we do this? By the way, what if someone from Amalek wants to come and convert to Judaism? Should we accept him? You should. Does he go into the category that wiped him out? And
No, you come join?
Yeah.
Yeah.
you should take it. Okay. Any other opinions?
Ну, from Amalek,
Yeah.
Amalek, ну, как, из его рода,
Yeah.
кто-то из его рода Амалика захочет в иудаизм.
Yes. Should we allow them to convert?
It's crazy, actually.
It's crazy to allow them, or that they should want to.
It's interesting. But
They back like
How much they're paying?
we should say back.
It all boils down.
So what about the white supremacists in Czechoslovakia, was it?
That.
Huh?
That what? What about them?
Who turned to Lubavitch rabbis and turned to all the rabbis, but it was a Lubavitch rabbi who said, yes, we will accept you.
That is that.
This was about 2
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago
Right.
It was in Budapest.
in Budapest.
Yeah.
может быть, они должны как-то доказывать свою лояльность какое-то время перед тем,
They should
как-
prove. You're
They
saying maybe they
need
should prove.
proof.
Okay.
They probably need to
So let
prove.
me tell you this. There is a debate. It's brought in Jewish law. The Rambam rules that we will accept them. If they come and they say, even though they're from Amalek, and we have a mitzvah to annihilate them, or we have a mitzvah to never forget what they did. If they come and they want to convert, we accept them. It's interesting. You see the very good.
I know that.
No,
I see that. How did you know?
But we told it too. How
Okay, very good. So, huh?
It's not the same people. You have forget them and forgive, right?
Okay, so but that's our question here. We're talking about not forgiving, not forgetting, wiping out a nation who did something to us 3,500 years ago. They're not the worst damage. They didn't cause the most hurt to the Jewish people, seemingly, as other enemies. And we don't find this in any other case where you say, don't forget, don't forgive. Why? By the way, there was a Jew who converted. It was an Amalek who became Jewish. And his name was Reb Shmuel Bar Shilat. The Gemara tells us in Baba Basra that he was a teacher of students, of children. He would teach children Torah. And he was very, very dedicated. It says he was like stars are in the sky. They're always shining, they're always working, they're always focused, they're always doing their thing. He was very, very dedicated to his students. It wasn't like after hours he was away. He was always thinking about them. He was talking to their parents, what could you do to improve them? He was very, very focused. And one time, he went to work the field. And another sage saw him, Rav saw him, and he said, you have a side job? I thought you're like known to be this dedicated teacher. What are you doing in the field? I mean, it is after hours, but why are you here? And Shmuel Bar Shilat said, in 30 years, I never tended to the field. It's the first day I decided, let me do something in the field. I went out, and my mind is not here. It's constantly on the students. It's a side interesting story about a person who was from Amalek, and he converted to Judaism. And he was very dedicated to Jewish children, very dedicated to students. Maimonides says we'll accept them. If they want to convert, we'll take them. Let's answer our question. Yeah.
Once they convert, like which one is allowed to convert? He was Christian or the Muslim, like which one you can convert to Jew?
Anybody that wants to could convert.
Like before he was a Christian or Muslim.
I'm telling you, anyone that wants to could convert.
Okay.
Okay,
Because
so
under the law, some not allowed to convert.
different generations and how much time. Today, they can convert. War breaks out among nations for several reasons: territory, power, or religion. Okay? So you have a certain group of people who are neighboring another nation. They want to conquer that nation. They fight with them. You have another situation where these people are strong. We want to overpower them. They go to war to overpower them, to have that power. Or they're on a crusade, a mission. They want to cause everyone to believe like them, to behave like them. Ideologically, they're on some type of mission. It's usually how it happens. Let's think about Amalek. Actually, let's first go about other nations and enemies that we had as Jews. Okay? What? Egypt. Why did Pare fight with us? Why did he enslave us? Let's go into Pare's mind for a moment. He says why. He said, here's this nation that's foreign. They're not Egyptians. I gave 70 visas to Joseph. 70 for his family. And they're having 6 tuplets, if that's the term. 6 children in a shot. They're growing like crazy every day. We'll have a war. They'll take the side of the enemy. We'll be gone. Egypt will be over. I'm not justifying his behavior, but he was afraid for his land, for his people. So he said, the Jews are going to take me over. I'll become extinct. So he said, okay, that's it. We got to do something. And he created this terrible decrees and brutal dictatorship. But you could hear that he has a fear that he's dealing with. Okay? Other nations, they were afraid of us. We were going through their land. They're afraid. We might conquer them. They might want to fight with us. It's territory. You have other nations throughout history that wanted to convert the Jews, force them to accept different, to assimilate or whatever it may be. There's a reason that you could say they hate us because of this. They're killing us, God forbid, because of this. All these things, there's some reason to it, some explanation. Something makes sense. Amalek, exactly. Amalek did not have any territory with us. They weren't next to us. We didn't, if you look at the map where the Jews traveled, we did not travel anywhere near the place where Amalek lived. There was no religion they were trying to impose on us. And frankly, we weren't a threat. We're slaves, just got out of Egypt after 200 years of being there. What in the world could possibly be bothering them that they're afraid of us? And you know who Amalek was? Amalek is a grandchild of Esav, Yaakov's twin brother. It's a cousin. Okay? Well, what's happening here? You have a cousin who hates for no reason. And we're not justifying any type of hate. And we're not condoning any type of war. However, sometimes a person does something and you could understand where they're coming from. They're misguided, perhaps. It's not pure hate. There's something here. There's something that they're fighting for. You could maybe solve it. You could deal with them. You could try to help them. Amalek came along without any reason. There's no explanation. It just says, we don't want these people. We want to kill them. But they came to us. We weren't passing by them. It's like a nation that's completely removed from any connection to us and hears about us and comes in. And everyone knew who we were. When Joshua sent spies to Israel years later. They came in and they stayed at a woman's house. And this local woman was protecting them because there was a search for them. And people came in and were looking for these two spies. And they heard her say, they left, they went somewhere, they were here, they're not here, I don't know what you're talking about. I never saw them. When they left, these two Jewish spies asked the woman, why did you do this for us? You're risking your life. Why are you doing it? And she said, because I heard what happened to you 40 years ago. When you guys, your nation left Egypt and the sea split for you, I'm in Israel. We heard all about it. And I know that you're the good people. And I'm confident that in the end, you'll be victorious. Please don't forget about me. And they didn't. They had to wrap a rope around their house, a string. They should know which house is hers. There's a whole plan. You see, the whole world knew about what happened to the Jewish people, the miracles that was going on. As a result, people were afraid to start up with the Jewish people. You know, sometimes you have someone that is mighty, and everyone's afraid of starting up with them. They're untouchable. Amalek came along and said, relax, they're touchable. You can start up with them. It's not the end of the world. Rashi gives the example. If you have a very hot tub, it's boiling hot water, and everyone's standing around, nobody wants to go in. It's too hot, you get burnt. And one guy comes along and he says, what are you guys afraid of? And he puts his foot inside. What happened? Everyone else is like, it's not so bad, they go inside. Okay, maybe it's not boiling, but they go inside. Did he cool the water down? Did the temperature get reduced? No. He just showed everyone that it's not as hot as you think it is. It's doable. Okay, you pave the way, you pioneer it. The world, after we left Egypt, was afraid to touch the Jews. There was a spell. There was this admiration. These people, they're God's nation. Look what he did. He got them out of Egypt. Egypt was a place where not one slave ever escaped. You can't get out of this ultimate iron curtain. And here, the Jewish people, a whole nation gets out. And not only that, but the sea splits, and word got around. This was the safest time for us. We're safe. No one's going to start up with us. We're God's people. And one nation comes along and says, they lost the war with us, by the way. But they broke that. Don't worry, you could touch them. They're human like everyone else. They're just another nation. It's not such a miracle. Okay, no worries. It's fine. This is the problem with this nation. They fight with us. They fought with us for no reason. Not territory, not religion, not fear out of some kind of power struggle. They just, out of spite. Not only that, but they were the first to come along and say, the Jews are touchable. Once they started it, other nations did it too. This is not the biggest problem. There's a bigger problem with them. The bigger problem is they know better. Torah tells us that Amalek, they weren't ignorant people. They knew a lot. They knew kishuf, they knew sorcery, they knew a lot of Jewish concepts. I'll give you an example. Someone asked me today, actually, if it's okay to celebrate his 40th birthday. His wife wants to take him for a 40th birthday excursion, or party. It's a big celebration out of state. And he's concerned because he heard that if you celebrate your 40th birthday, it's some type of superstition, God forbid, or something against it. And I assured him that it's the other way around, that Jewish birthdays is something which should be celebrated. The Rebbe speaks about it a lot, that a birthday is a time to look at your past year, make good resolutions for the future year, to celebrate opportunities that you have, blessings that you have, gather your friends, make a celebration. It's an important time. It's a good time. You'll do your 40th?
Next year.
Okay. Why wait? Invite us.
Yeah.
Please. Thank you. So the he wants to come too.
I'm alone.
a birthday is a positive thing to celebrate. But one of the things it says about a birthday is mazoloi goiver. A person's mazel is strong on that day. We'll call it loosely, your luck is strong. Amalek knew this. It's not easy for a person to get killed on their birthday. It's not common for a person to die on their birthday. Certain tzaddikim pass away on the day they were born. Moshe, by the way, today is the 7th of Adar. We recognize it in the first Adar, but nonetheless, it's the birthday and the yahrzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu. He was born and passed away on the same day. The second Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, was born and passed away on the same day. It represents a completion, a wholeness, and it's a specialty.
Yeah.
Don't die on any day. Amalek knew this thing, and Amalek divided his army based on months. Okay, all the Januaries line up here, all the Februaries line up here. It wasn't, is this the Navy? It was divided based on birthdays, and whenever they had a battle, they would send all the birthday boys to battle today, because chances of all these birthday boys getting defeated on their birthday, minimal. When they fought with the Jews, why it was so hard to defeat them? It was all their birthdays. The whole Amalek, they all came on their birthday to battle. Whoever was fighting was their birthday. That's why Moshe went on the mountain. He lifted his arms. He was, I don't want to say messing, he was modifying the constellations in the heaven that have to do with the times of the day and the month and the year and whatever else, because we couldn't overpower them because it was their birthday. It was very, very difficult. So think about it. Most people don't know this. Most nations don't know this. Amalek, he has some spirituality. He has some idea of how these things work. And what's he doing? Fighting with us for no reason whatsoever? I had the same question. And we're not going to leave till we figure this out. Huh? Amalek, no, he wasn't Jewish.
But same way,
Curse of
Yaakov.
Esau.
Yes. The problem is this type of hatred is the worst. Because someone who has an interest, and that's why they're fighting with you, they're scared of you. Very good, thank you. You could talk to them. You could explain to them. They don't have to be afraid. You could show them. There's ways that you could deal. If there's truly a reason, you could try to discuss it. If there's no reason, or there's a fake reason, then you're wasting your time. Because whatever you're going to do is not going to work. It's not, I hope this doesn't exist in real life. But certain people, there's generational fights. Okay, something happened many generations ago. They're not even sure why. It didn't affect any of the two people that are not good with each other, but they don't get along. And there's nothing you could do to resolve it because there's nothing that caused it. It's some kind of many generations ago or something else happened somewhere. They're keeping it with them. What are you supposed to do? It takes a deep dedication and devotion to try to bring them together because they have this unexplainable hatred towards each other. That was Amalek with the Jews. And that's the worst type of enemy. Okay? Yes?
He said, about the Egyptians were fighting because they're scared because they go to their land because we grew up so fast.
Correct. Yeah.
And,
By the way, they're not exempt. It doesn't excuse their behavior.
but still they're scared. They're scared to go to the land.
Okay.
And they go lose all the people.
Right.
Well, what about Germany? Why they do it? Why would you?
Maybe that'll go in the same category as Amalek.
Absolutely. It's a fear. I have the
So the same thing, right?
Perhaps. Now we understand why we read Parsha Zachar before Purim. And why Haman, when his name is mentioned, we bang and we make a big deal out of this enemy. Right? Why him? Because he also had nothing to lose from the Jewish people. We were a very small minority. We didn't make any waves. We weren't bothering anybody. He had a problem with the Jewish people. If you were part of Mordechai's nation, he hated you. Mordechai was one person that didn't bow down to Haman. So all the other Jews, wherever they lived throughout the world, which was all under the rule of Achashverosh at that time, should all be punished, killed. Why?
For one person.
It's the same root. It's a hatred without a reason. And Torah says, be careful of that, because that's something which you can't resolve that. Nothing you could do about it. But there's a deeper issue here. The fact that he knew better and didn't act on it makes his crime even greater. How is that possible? You have two parts to yourself. You have the head and your heart. Okay? The head tells you a lot of things that you should understand is correct, is appropriate, a way to behave, how you should be, right? And your heart feels like doing it or not like doing it. Okay? Give you an example. You have a doctor who understands the dangers of smoking. Not only that, but he speaks about it, he lectures about it, he writes articles about it. He treats patients and sees firsthand the effects of smoking. And he finishes this lecture about the problem with smoking. He walks out of the back door, he takes out a cigarette, lights up. What are you doing? I said what I said. I don't have to act that way. What's really going on? He knows it intellectually, but emotionally, he wants a cigarette. It's not strong enough to get him not to do the right thing. I'm sorry, not to do the wrong thing. Sometimes it's in your mind, but it's not coming to your heart. The reason in Kabbalah it's explained, you have the confines of the neck. Okay, it's narrow, and the head, it's a slowdown over here, and it doesn't always flow to the heart. It takes effort, concentration, desire to take the idea and tell yourself it's the right thing to do. Let's develop a feeling towards it. In Chassidus, we talk about the idea that the mind controls the heart by nature. Okay, the person says, "I know it's right, but I can't help it. I don't feel like it." We have the ability to control our feelings. It's not easy, but it is doable. We could develop feelings. We could control feelings. I'll give you an example. If you knew that donut is very good for you, that it has vitamins in it, and it has minerals in it, and it has, assuming, and sugar, yeah, all the good things. You could develop a feeling towards it, although it doesn't taste good. This is a very bad example, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you know something is bad for you,
An onion.
an onion, right? Okay. If you knew that the onion had vitamin C, and it had components to it that are healthy, and they're protectors against colds and whatever else, and you hate onions, okay? You don't like the smell, you don't like the taste, you don't like nothing about it. But you know in your mind that it's really good for you, you could develop a desire that you'll jump to this onion. Because you know it's good for you. Not that you're holding your nose and you're forcing it down. You actually want it, you like it, because you know it's good for you. You could reach a level. The same thing is in the opposite way. If you know something's bad for you, even if it's enjoyable, but you know that it's bad for you, you could develop a resentment towards it, a physical dislike, even though it's pleasurable, technically, taste or experience, whatever it may be. Because the mind has the ability to control the heart. It takes work, it takes reflection, contemplation. You know, I've said this many times, but the difference between meditation in Yiddishkeit, Torah's version of meditation, and the common definition of meditation is that regular meditation tells you empty your mind. In Judaism, meditation is not emptying your mind, it's zeroing in, it's concentrating on a particular idea. Focus on that, not about emptying, but really, really focus a lot on this one idea. Become one with it, connect with it, let it impact you. If I think about something with my mind, I have the ability to control my heart. I could do it. It's doable. We just have to try to do it. Amalek had a problem. Their mind told them what's right, what's wrong, who are the Jews, how does this work. They got it. They knew what birthdays were, for example. They knew a lot of interesting stuff. They knew God's decisions and the Jews were right and this is wrong to start up with them and all that stuff. But it didn't affect them. They didn't care. They just went and did it. We had the same thing with someone else, by the way, with Bilam. Bilam the prophet, he was a very learned person. He knew exactly what to do. He told Balak, the king, he said, you want to get the Jews? He tried to curse us. In the end, he blessed us. Want to curse them? Why don't you invite the girls of Moav to sin with them? God hates sins. Promiscuity, whatever else. Bring them in, and you don't have to curse them. It'll happen on its own. How does this work? It's an enemy who understands spirituality. He knows what's really wrong. He knows how God thinks, so to speak. Shouldn't he know that maybe it's not nice to curse people and to fight with them? He did, but his hatred is so strong he couldn't stop it. Yeah, it's something which this is. I want to give you an example. In the times of the Tzemach Tzedek, it's one of my favorite stories. In the times of the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, there was, in a different city, not far from there, he lived in Lubavitch. Not far from Lubavitch, there was a family who, unfortunately, their daughter was semi-paralyzed. And she really couldn't function properly, and the parents were very sad about it, and the rest of the family was trying to help, and they always felt bad for her, and she was getting older, and they tried different remedies, nothing worked. This fellow, the father, was not a chassid. He was actually opposed to the teachings of Chassidus. Okay? And did not appreciate this whole idea of a Rebbe and Chassidim. And his wife tells him one day, I heard there's a tzaddik. He's a Rebbe. He lives in Lubavitch, Tzemach Tzedek. He gives blessings. Why don't you go and ask him for a blessing for our daughter? Take our daughter, ask him for a blessing. And he said, me, Rebbe's, I'll go for that. There's Torah, and we pray to God. This whole holy thing of going asking for blessings, I don't subscribe to that. She said, but look at the daughter. Come on, just go. If it's not going to help, it won't hurt. What are you going to lose? Just a trip, do it. And she's nudging him, and he doesn't want. Finally, she really bothered him so much for it that he said, okay, I'll go. He takes his daughter, he travels to Lubavitch, he goes to the Tzemach Tzedek, he gets a private meeting, she's on a chair, and he says, Rebbe, look at her, so many years with so many doctors, takes out a big bag of money, puts it on the Rebbe's table and says, heal my daughter, bless my daughter. The Rebbe took the money, threw it on the floor, said, I don't need your money. And the coins splattered all over the floor. This girl gets up on her own from the chair, walks over to the money and starts to pick it up. And the father almost fainted. And then he composes himself and he says, my daughter, quick, let's get out of here before he says he did it. He had a feeling that I don't want to believe in something, even though his mind said, what do you mean? This is clearly a blessing, a prayer that the Rebbe prayed on her behalf, a blessing that he gave. Amalek had knowledge, but it didn't flow down to the heart. We potentially have this idea as well. There's a spiritual type of Amalek. We know what's right. Intellectually, we identify with it. We get it, but we don't act on it. We're not ready to do anything about it. And that's why Torah says this is the enemy. This is the problem, because we're connected. We have it. We're just not letting it flow down. We're not letting it get to us. And I just want to conclude. What are the two most joyous holidays that we have? Purim and more joyous than Hanukkah, Simchas Torah. We dance with the Torahs. Why is it so joyous? The idea of Simchas Torah is joy. When a person is joyous, it helps absorb concepts and become one with it. When you're happy, when someone says a little l'chaim, and they get into a certain mode, it helps take an intellectual idea and bring it a little bit more down to earth, bring it a little bit more down into our emotions, bring it a little bit more, because what happens is you learn about something, you believe in it, you subscribe to it, but to practicality, it has no connection. Practically, you don't allow it to impact you because the mind has certain guards that are up. Both on Purim and Simchas Torah, we say l'chaim, we rejoice, we're happy. We let ideas and concepts that we know about to come a little bit, we get a little bit more flexible to accept them, to connect with them. So why is Amalek such a arch enemy of the Jewish people? It represents an issue. It represents knowing what's right, but refusing to act on it. Knowing that's right, but not allowing ourselves to feel it. And that's what Torah says. Remember that and make sure it doesn't happen in your life. Make sure that you don't have senseless hate for people. You shouldn't have any hate. Make sure that you what's going on in your mind, if you know it's right, try to bring it into the rest of your life. Try to act on it. Try to feel it. Internalize things in life. Try to become one with the idea. Thank you. Have a very happy Purim. Please join us on Wednesday night. Yeah. Wednesday night is going to be here. Thursday night is going to be on Devon. 7 o'clock on Wednesday, 5 o'clock on
No, wait.
Thursday.
7 o'clock Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
7 here and 5 here.
Yeah.